Now it's time for social media, and we're going to hit hashtags. We're going to welcome in Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, and Jenny Horton is back with us, fast market contributor.
So Apple, this couldn't be more timely. Obviously, Trump agreed to ease restrictions on Chinese tech giant Huawei's tech purchases, so this is what's kind of driving Apple today. But Andy, if you look at your purchase intent historically, we're seeing the stock is much higher than the purchase intent, which looks like it's actually declining. So what does that really mean for Apple?
Well, we're kind of in a lull for Apple from a consumer enthusiasm perspective. It really started last September when their keynote event kicked off and they launched the all of the new models of iPhones. And our data was very clear on that. In fact, we were able to put out a bearish alert the next day showing that consumers just simply weren't enthusiastic about the new iPhones, and especially the pricing on those phones. And Apple's kind of been fighting that headwind all year long from a consumer perspective. I can say that we are finally seeing Apple start to get some uptick. We see this last quarter actually a year-over-year gain for Apple in terms of purchase intent mentions. It's one of their dead quarters. It really doesn't matter that much. I think it's all eyes on the next keynote event when they come out with their new product lines. Something has to spark this company from here. Apple's a wonderful company. They do a really good job. We're seeing nice upticks on the watch, nice upticks on podcasts and their subscription services, things like that. All that's going very well, but they don't seem to have the catalyst of that magical product that investors and shareholders and consumers got used to for so long.
Andy, it's like you're inside my melon right now thinking about, because here's what I think. I think you're exactly right. And with everything Apple has going on, and they have a lot of good products, but you're right, I think enthusiasm is low. And all I look at and all I think about, and I have no knowledge, I have no data, I have no knowledge, this is purely my opinion based on being in this market for so long. I look at $79 billion in cash. The cash they're sitting on, and I think this company is on the verge of a major acquisition. That's just my gut feeling, because you're right, enthusiasm is waning, and they need to get to the next generation of Apple products. Tell us your thoughts, because you basically alluded to something lagging here that feels like it was the exact same thought.
Yeah, I think that we've kind of reached that maturity cycle with phones that we had with computers and we had with iPads and devices like that. So there's this period where you come out with something magical, like Apple did with the iPhone, and like they did in the past with their personal computers that were different than the IBM Dell type of machines that you could buy. That cycle has kind of worn itself out. We're on the 10th version, or 11th version, whatever it is, of iPhones. Samsungs are right there. I think that the technology gap has closed enough, and everybody kind of thinks, okay, a phone is a phone. I don't have to have the latest one anymore. So what's that next product? What's that next thing that Apple can put in your home or in your garage or on your eyes? I have no idea what it will be, but what is that next thing that creates a whole new ecosystem, creates an entire new economy? That's what Apple's great at. That's what they were great at under Steve Jobs, and now we have to see if Tim Cook can do it, because he's done a really good job of steering the ship that was on the right path. But what's the next waypoint, I think, is the big question for Apple.
Now, you mentioned next generation. I think that a lot of people are looking to 5G, which kind of seems to be the next step. So that actually ties into our next tweet perfectly, which is from Thomas Thornton, who says, "Just think, the 5G iPhone will come out after the next presidential election. That's a long time from now. Why buy Apple now? Services growth likely to slow too." So there is this level of services growth slowing that we see, but 5G does seem like a long way away. There's not infrastructure in place yet for 5G, so it seems like a lot has to change before this is possible.
Yeah, Andy, I don't know if you have any takes on that, but I'm looking at all the stuff that we've already talked about, all the points that you just made about, what's the next big thing for Apple. If we pull up the company profile, you'll see the $79 billion in cash that Kevin's talking about, but this is still 44% roughly the iPhone, and to me, that's the next big catalyst, at least to get people to, get off their couch, go to either the Apple store or their cell phone provider and buy this new iPhone, because you make a really good point. the new technology from one generation to the next in the iPhones just isn't enough anymore to spark that interest. And quite frankly, they just last longer now. Phones aren't breaking and becoming obsolete nearly as fast.
Yeah, and I think there's also just there's some indication that there is a cultural movement that's starting to take place of, look, I'm looking at my phone too much. My phone is too big a part of my life. And so that's another headwind that Apple faces. And so I think the watch is a move in the right direction. And I think, Apple's in a very good position to release a new product that changes the world. It's just, do they have that in the bag? We don't know yet. There's normally by now we'd start to hear some leaks about what's coming in September. We're really not hearing that much because I don't know that anything super exciting is coming. When we look at Apple and we look at our purchase intent mentions and we look at the stock, I hate to say it, but we're pretty aggressively neutral on Apple right here at these prices.
Aggressively neutral. That kind of goes into my next tweet, which is from Chart Surgeons, who says, Apple been hesitating due to China news, but now gapping over this 201 bull flag resistance from last week. If this ends up being a gap and go market, this one should be back to all-time highs. This morning, pre-market volume, 500,000, very big. Kevin, you got excited about something in that tweet. I
got excited because Prattle almost just took out the monitor over there as he was moving back. That was what
I thought
was
you got
more
excited about my tweet.
I did get excited about your tweet, but I was more excited about Prattle was doing a facer over there.
Tying this tweet though in, this is basically exactly what Brent Moores was just talking about in our last segment for Face Off, and that ties into what Andy's saying too, that it is fairly neutral. It's been tied up, but what we learned from Brent Moores is if we break out of this longer term wedge, we could see a pretty significant upside move. But what Andy's saying is, based off their data, they're not anticipating that, but it's kind of neutrally priced right now. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the case of Apple's a great company. Everybody knows it's a great company. It's a great stock to own. It's good to be a shareholder of. It's good to be a customer of. But there's nothing massive going on. There's nothing truly great coming on the horizon that we can see yet. Now, with whatever it is, $79 billion in cash, that can also buy you a lot of secrets. And so there's a lot that could be going on at Apple that we wouldn't know about. But I do think that they need that catalyst product. I don't think it's there yet, but we have to wait and see. And then the other thing that I would say that's really cool about Apple is that LikeFolio data has been very good on that keynote address in identifying over the years each one of those keynote addresses every year. Consumers really tip their hands, and so we really look forward to that in September. And I would tell people to really put that on their calendar. We're getting close to just 2 months away on that, and that's one of the best trading opportunities of the year to get in the mind of the consumer on such a transparent company like Apple. When they put it all out there, consumers really do tip their hands on what they're going to do the rest of the year.
Yeah, as you said, that is in September. We have earnings July 30th. Andy, we got to leave it there. Really appreciate you joining us on this Monday morning.
All right, have a great week.